Shalom, 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 shalom. What's going on, family? Hope everybody's doing well out there. Hope everybody's doing well out there in these YouTube streets, shall I say. Hope everybody's doing well out there in these YouTube streets, shall I say. And I was scheduled for this live to go at 3:30, but I thought I was going to be in the store longer than what I expected. So I got out of the store earlier than what I expected. So I figured I'd go ahead and do the live now at right at 3 o'clock and whatnot. So what I want to say is, family, listen. I don't know if anybody's heard about this because it's not so much talked about within these YouTube streets, especially amongst those who are Reformed and Calvinists. Not many of them. I've been scouring the YouTube channels and the YouTube streets and social media streets, and I haven't found anybody talking about this or discussing this situation. Um, and so myself, I still have relationships with brothers and sisters who are in the Reformed community. Not everyone in the Reformed community is an apologist. Not everyone in the Reformed community is against Israelites. Okay, especially if you had a relationship with brothers and sisters, for X amount of years, who maybe are Reformed in their theology, but they don't have a problem. As long as it's about the gospel and things like that, no problem with the people that I know, that I have a relationship with. Now, others I don't know or don't have a relationship with, those on YouTube, those in the social media that's banging. That's a whole nother conversation, right? But I want to talk about this. Hold on, let me make sure I put my notifications on on silent so I don't hear it. But I'm not going to be long. All right, and this is the crazy part. What's so crazy? Hey, Salama, what's going on to my sister Ashanda? What's going on? Shalom, Shalama, Shalawam, Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, or Shabbat Shalom, as we're approaching for many of us who honor the Shabbat. All right. Grace and peace to you as well. Blessings to you as well. Donovan, hey, my sister. What's going on? Morad Dakota, what's going on? Brother Leon, what's going on with you, man? So I want to talk about this. Again, not many people are discussing it, of course, but there's been some situations that's going on. And here's the thing. Um, I started out, I was getting these notifications, right? Just, I'm on Twitter, and I keep getting these notifications for about the last week and a half. And all these notifications that's been kind of coming through outside of music and all this other stuff I've been seeing John McArthur, John McArthur, John McArthur. And then I saw somebody post what made me really look and look at these notifications was I saw someone said R.I.P. John McArthur. And so I'm like, what in the world? So I hadn't heard anything from any, even at the time, any of the Reformed brothers and sisters that I know. And so um, I thought John McArthur had passed away. That's what I thought. So once I got to looking at it, and I went and looked at the notification, what was going on, I said, oh, okay. So I want to kind of get in there and talk about it. I don't, maybe you guys can go and look, for yourselves and check out some more information on it. But I'm going to read some of the things that's been going on. John McArthur lately, I guess cancel culture has caught up with John McArthur on some things that John McArthur said and had defended someone now who is serving a life sentence for child abuse as well as all kind of other charges. And I guess this guy was a part, or he had some connections with John McArthur, and there was some things that was said. And I do want to say this. I want to make sure that I preface this um, in my saying. The only person that I've seen in these YouTube streets that has said something about this is Ruslan. Okay, Ruslan he also did a video about this, and he's not reformed, he's not Calvinist or anything like that. But Ruslan is, he's heavy in these streets. When it comes down to, I think he's very unbiased. When it comes down to, presenting information, it's not a gossip show or anything like that, like some of the others. He just report information. He was probably one of the only ones that I've seen, even within the Christian community, that is a YouTube reporter that said anything about any of the other Christians or Calvinists or anything like that, when it comes down to any type of scandals or molestation or rape or affairs or whatever you have it. But he mentioned something about pretty much anybody that there's an issue. So shout out to Ruslan for posting this. I don't know Ruslan. I don't have a relationship with him, so I'm not shouting him out because I know him. Okay. Um, but this is another article I want to read called The Roy's Report. Okay. The Roy's Report. All right. And so you can also look on the site is called julieroys.com, but you can also use Google as your friend as well to research this situation going on with John McArthur. John McArthur recently was canceled or taking off of a conference. Okay. Because of course, cancel culture, the cancel culture does not have, okay, cancel culture does not have any expiration. There's no statute of limitations on cancel culture. We've seen that with Kevin Hart. Cancel culture will come back and they will dig something up on your behind. We're not talking speculations, okay, with cancel culture. See, in these YouTube streets, there's a lot of speculating and people, choose side. Cancel culture don't do that. Cancel culture will find something on your behind that is factual and legit, and they will just either attempt to cancel you or cancel. You got to actually be gangster to deal with cancel culture. So now cancel culture is after Pastor John McArthur about something that happened in August the 18th of 2002. Cancel culture is no joke, right? And cancel culture doesn't discriminate. Cancel culture, they don't care if you're Christian, they don't care if you're Israelite, they don't care if you are atheist, they don't care. Cancel culture does not care, okay? If it's something that they feel is not living up to the culture of the present day, they will cancel your behind, okay? So let's look at this. John McArthur. Okay, so this is dated March the 8th, 2022. This is what I'm going to read this, okay? This is by Julie Roy of julieroys.com or the Roy's Report. Look at this. On August the 18th, 2002, prominent radio pastor and author John McArthur took time during an evening service to address a grave matter at his 8,000 member Grace Community Church in Sun Valley, California. Okay. A woman at GCC was living in sin, McArthur alleged. And though shaming her publicly was quote unquote sad, McArthur said it was necessary to maintain fidelity to God and his word. So as men were distributing, all right, listen to this. So as men were distributing the elements up for communion, which is sacred, okay, McArthur said, I want to mention a sad situation. Now check Check this out. Now, Pastor McArthur is fit to make a demonstration and an example of someone doing communion. I want y'all to pay attention to this. Look what happened. It said, and I quote, this is what McArthur says. I want to mention a sad situation, a person who is unwilling to repent. And the church bears responsibility for before God to be the instrument of discipline. This is what the Lord wants. He wants discipline to be put out of the church, to be publicly shamed, to be put away from fellowship. In this case, it applies to Eileen Gray. Okay, we're going to find out who Eileen Gray is here in a minute. Let's see what it says here. End quote. According to McArthur, according to McArthur, Gray's sin was that she had decided to, quote, to leave her husband, to grant no grace at all, to take the children, to go away, to forsake him, end quote. This McArthur emphasized meant rejecting, and I quote, all the instruction and counsel of the elders, all instruction from the word of God, end quote. McArthur then encouraged the church to pray for Eileen and to, quote, treat her as an unbeliever. Listen to this. I want y'all to read that again. McArthur then encouraged the church to pray for Eileen and to, and I quote, treat her as an unbeliever. For all we know, she may be, end quote. So now, the church is supposed to treat her like an unbeliever because she decided to leave her husband. But here's why she's going to leave. She decided to leave her husband. Let's read. Look what it says. Okay. I want y'all to read this. Check this out. McArthur then encouraged the church to pray for Eileen and to treat her like an unbeliever. I read that. Let's jump down. He also urged the church to pray for her husband, David Gray. Okay? David Gray, who taught music and Bible to children at Grace Community Church in 1994 to 2001. I quote, this is what McArthur says, pray for David for the sympathy and compassion and the loving kindness of God to be his portion, end quote. McArthur then invited the church to sing Amazing Grace, quote unquote. Today, David Gray is serving a 21-year to life today, David Gray is serving 21 years to life in a California prison for his 2005 conviction for aggravated child molestation, corporal injury to a child, and child abuse. Let me go back. So McArthur said, treat his wife like an unbeliever because far as they know, she's an unbeliever. That's almost in the same case as many love to quote Paul as in treating someone like an anathema. But let's keep reading. Look what it says here. But at the time of Eileen's shaming, let's read, listen, I want y'all to listen to this. At the time that he shamed her doing communion service, okay, Eileen had not yet reported her husband's physical and mental abuse to the police. So treat her like an unbeliever, but at that time, she had not even reported the abuse of her husband, and yet they still wanted to treat her like a non-believer. Let me read that again just in case y'all missed it, for those in the back and those who will watch later and those who hit the rewind while I'm live. Treat her like a non-believer. Like she has no salvation at the present time. But look at what the report says. Look what it says. But at the time of Elaine's shaming, Elaine had not yet reported her husband's physical, and mental abuse to police. She was not yet aware of his sexual abuse. Instead, she had reported the abuse to elders and pastors at GCC. I'm going to say GOCC. At GCC. I want y'all to think about that. She reported her abuse to her leadership in the church. She did not report it to the police. And the church that she's depending on, the elders and the leadership to deal with her husband, seems to have failed her. I say seem. Instead, her leader decides during communion service, which is supposed to be a segment, basically, don't give Elaine any communion. Don't give her any sacraments. Because we don't know if she's a believer or not. So basically refused her the sacraments. I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying for him put her on display during communions, during the time of the serving of the communion. They put her on blast as a non-believer, and the church should excommunicate her, treat her like she's nothing. Treat her like she's nothing. Treat her like a non-believer. Now we see where most of the people that are in the YouTube streets, it's easy for them to treat people and throw the non-believer label on people. It's easy to do that because most of them that we know are fans of this guy and follow his teachings. That's all I'm saying. Look at this. Elaine also had not left her husband. In 2002, Elaine, I think I'm saying her name right, was still living with her children in Gray's home about 1.5 miles from the church. She was still living with him, even though he was physically abusing her. He was verbally abusing her. And guess what? What she didn't know, he was also sexually abusing children. And she had not gone to the police. She had went to her leadership, and her leadership shamed her and put her on blast publicly because she wouldn't stand with her husband, supposedly, and then tried to throw the word of God on it. Elaine had, however, filed legal separation and restraining orders against David due to his repeated abuse of her and her children, as well as his alleged stalking and threats to kill them and himself. At the time of the shaming, Eileen had obtained a court order requiring that David's visits with the children be monitored and restricting him from coming within 100 yards of Eileen. As Eileen explained in an exclusive interview with the Roy's Report, she went to GCC elders hoping they would protect her and her children and get David professional help. Instead, she says the church subjected her to spiritually abusive counseling and used church discipline to try and coerce her to take David back into the family home. Now, let's see here. On this website, they have a 2-minute video of the public shaming of Eileen. All right, I'm not going to read all of this, but let me read a couple more lines and then I'll get off. And then y'all can go do your own research. Y'all can go from there. Eileen said Carrie Hardy, a former GCC associate pastor and personal assistant to John McArthur, told her she needed to model for her children how to suffer for Jesus. Let me read it. She needs to model for her children how to, quote, suffer for Jesus, end quote, by enduring David's abuse. The Roy's Report repeatedly reached out to McArthur and Hardy, who's now senior pastor of Twin City Bible Church, for comments, but they did not respond. When Eileen refused to take David back, GCC sent her multiple letters over several months in 2001 and 2002, which she recently proved to the Roy's Report. The letters threatened Eileen with church discipline if she fails to comply with the elders. Requests to drop the protective order against David and take him back. When the letters failed to change Eileen's stance, John McArthur publicly shamed Eileen twice, once in May of 2002 and again in August 2002. Eileen told the Royal Report that McArthur never spoke with her before, during, or after the shaming. In the months between her shaming, GCC members and staff repeatedly harassed and visited Eileen at home, urging her to obey the elders. According to Eileen, and dozens of pages of court documents obtained by the Roy's Report. I'm going to end it on that, brothers and sisters. I will say this. If this was somebody in our community, this would have been all over. It don't matter if it was from 1977. This would have been all over the internet. This would have been all over the YouTube streets. Everybody would have been talking about it, and everybody would have been labeling. See, this is what these Hebrew Israelites are all about. But here's the thing. I'm not going to do that, because you know why? Because I have family and friends who are in the Reformed community. And I'm not going to label them I'm not going to label them in the same category as someone like you. Because they're not you. They don't think or act like you. And therefore, a distinction needs to be made. I'm not going to say every Christian believes and act like this. But what I will say is, if this was somebody from the Israelite community, it would have been all over. It had been all over. Folks have been called liars. Folks would have been called all kind of stuff, devils and all kind of stuff, all that stuff. Every anathemas and all kind of stuff. Not saved and all kind of stuff. But nobody deserves to be labeled that. So, brothers and sisters, I want to encourage you, man. Just want to report. Go do your own study. Go do some. It's more to this story. More is coming out. More people are, more conferences are dropping. And I think also John McArthur may be resigning or something like that, where I read out. That's not official. All right. That's not official. But from what I understand, it unofficially read somewhere that he may be resigning or appointing someone to be a successor. Okay. And again, there's the video footage of the shaming. And there is no statute of limitations on cancel culture. Shalom to you all, brothers and sisters, and grace to you all, family.